Hey everyone, Seth here, and a little bit of less tech fans before. This week on the Space Report podcast, we go over, of course, the top stories from last week, and also for the main topic, we kind of go over the more business side of things as a recap for this year. So from mergers to cash problems to, wow, some company has a lot of cash, and also to valuations. We talked about kind of like an overview of what happened this year on the business side of things. So enjoy. Hey Jared, how's it going?
Hey, what's going on?
It's one of those weeks. You know, those one of those weeks that just keeps on giving.
Yes, it does.
All right. It does. Well, we have a couple items to talk this week. While I try not to move my neck as much, you know when you wake up and you have a really good night's sleep, but your neck goes, no, you did it wrong.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's me right now. So I can do this. That's all I can do.
Ooh.
No other movements. So I have my swivel chairs, all I got. But yeah, let's. We've had a pretty interesting week. Today, there's a National Space Council meeting today. I watched a little bit of it, and it turns
nice.
It's about as they're about as entertaining as throwing a bunch of politicians in a room and telling them to praise each other. So
it's very, very C-SPAN.
It's very. We all do great jobs. You do a great job, State. You do a great job, Department of Defense. And NASA, you're awesome. And we don't need to anger anyone. We just keep doing what we're doing because we're doing great jobs, which is fair, but also a little useless. Anyways, this week, actually, SpaceX is actually the biggest story this week, but not really because of any launches it's doing. It's because of its lack of launches. Last week, we talked about we were seeing a delay in the Falcon Heavy mission. And it turns out, it's delaying, all right? It's delaying all the way to next week. There were a total of 0 launches last week from SpaceX. And it's pretty much put a nail in the coffin of making us all wrong. And we can no longer claim to be right about SpaceX's 100 launch year.
Yeah, good thing FanDuel didn't have any odds on that. I probably would have played it.
I'm sure some Reddit or some Discord community had a running bet, and people. I would have lost money on that. Even if you throw in the 2 Starship missions, you're not going to see any sort of. It's going to be like, I think actually with the 2 Starship missions, you'll see 99 launches. I think is what it's going to be, which is rough. So it's 97 if they launch. So they launched a Starlink this week. So they launched a Starlink on December 8th, which was the week before last week, which was the week before last week, yeah. And then we had nothing all last week. We were supposed to have 4. They all got delayed. And then we had a Starlink launch. It was a Monday night, I think. And then we're supposed to hopefully see 2 more launches this week. And then 3 launches next week, possibly. And most of those actually are non-Starlink missions, trying to get them off by the end of the year. And if all those go, then we'll be at 97 Falcon 9 Falcon Heavy launches. And then throw 2 Starship launches on top of that. That's 99. And SpaceX.
It's rough.
Yeah, that's rough. So the issue, what it seemed like last week was weather. Like, it's bad luck for SpaceX. Like, they can't control the weather. They had a bunch of weather concerns in Florida. Like, it probably pushed out like 3 days of last week's window. Like,
just last week we were supposed to. At one point, they said that we were supposed to have like hurricane like wind. It was pretty bad. So, it was like 3 or 4. It was weird. It was like being in a hurricane, but it was kind of chilly. So,
but it was just a storm. Yeah, didn't it just like come through from like the east
it just blew
west?
over.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I had like a friend, like her door got damaged, like down in Fort Lauderdale, which is like something you're used to for hurricanes. Like, you used to, like, if you don't have like, a really sturdy door, it might blow open, but not during just a normal storm. She was texting me, and I'm like, nah, it's not a hurricane. You're fine. Like, if I can stand a hurricane, it'll be fine. No, it was not fine.
Yeah.
But that was for the Starlink launch from last week. And then there was also a Starlink launch from Vandenberg that got delayed 2 weeks, and we don't know why about that. But the big story really is with the Falcon Heavy launch, the USSF-52, which is, of course, the launch of the Air Force's X-37B spaceplane. I will say this again because people seem confused. It is the Air Force's spaceplane. It is not the Space Force's. out of all the things that the Air Force retained ownership of during the transition, for some reason they really wanted that space plane.
That plane.
It was like, yeah, everything, yeah, we'll like Air Force Space Command, everything will transition, but we're keeping the space plane. So that it's the Air Force's space plane that is operated jointly with the Space Force, and of course the Space Force is in charge of launching it. So that was on Falcon Heavy, and we got down to like, it was supposed to launch on a weekend, then like weather delayed it to a Monday, and then they delayed it to Tuesday for technical issues. And then they stated, I'll say this, they stated that both the payload and the rocket were healthy on Monday's delay. And I'm going to make a jump here that could totally not be real, but I'm gonna say it anyways. Then Tuesday, they delayed it again another day. I think it was until Wednesday, or they delayed it indefinitely, and they only said that the payload was healthy. They didn't, almost always do we see payload and rocket are healthy when there's a delay. And we didn't see that that could be a stretch of a conclusion. It could just be the communication manager who did that tweet just condensed it down. But we did see the rocket go horizontal and the rocket go back into the HIF, the horizontal integration facility, a few days later. So
the garage.
The garage. Pretty much. It's a really big garage. And so, and then they delayed it 2 weeks to the December 28th, alongside the Vandenberg Starlink launch. So who knows? They're not going to say anything, obviously, like details wise, but eventually things go wrong. Like it's spaceflight. Like I want to say spaceflight is hard. I'm saying spaceflight is complicated. There are, because people don't like the spaceflight is hard excuse, because that's fair. Like in the early 2000s, yes. Nowadays, SpaceX is doing great things. Like it's
right.
Figure it out. But spaceflight is complicated, and the systems and all the equipment that goes into it eventually is going to wear down. Eventually is going to break. So eventually it's going to happen. So something must have went wrong where they had to, take the rocket in, or at least the delay was going to be long enough to where they didn't want the rocket outside for 2 weeks, which is probably a good one as well. So, we're waiting on that. If it launches by the end of the year, we don't know for certain. They're hoping the Space Force, a Space Force official at a conference kind of said like they hope to have it launched by the end of the year, but they don't exactly know if they will be. So we'll see. We'll see if that happens. You'll see a Falcon Heavy launch there, Jared. I promise you. One day.
Hopefully.
All right. This is from yesterday, early Tuesday morning, NS-24 launched, New Shepard 24 from Blue Origin. This is the return the flight mission after the NS-23 had a failure of its booster back in September of 2022. I just recorded a short about it, so I have like all this information in my head already, which is great. And so they it's a New Shepard, scientific mission launch. Like there's nothing crazy about it. There's a good amount of research missions from NS-23 that reflew on NS-24. It launched. There was postcards on it from what is it called? Club for the Future. It launched. It landed. Everything was great. It all worked. There was something I noticed interestingly that I haven't noticed before. I don't know. I don't think it's new. I reached out to Blue Origin and asked if it was a new system, and they haven't responded to me yet. At least let's see. Let's check my email. Do they anything from?
There we go. Real time.
Yep. Nope. Nothing from Blue Origin. Anyways, there was. It looked like they deployed like payloads from like the underbelly of either the underbelly of like the spacecraft, the capsule part, or like from underneath the booster, like from on top of the booster. Like somewhere, it looked like they deployed like payloads. I don't know what you call it, like just things scientific instruments you could deploy out. It's because you just saw things fly away. I'm like, that doesn't look right. And also at the end when it landed, you saw like little parachutes. It looked like little parachutes come down. So I don't know if maybe we just saw like a recovery system, like for reusable of a part that needs to be removed that is just now has parachutes so they can reuse it, or like that's a new system, or it's been a system all along. We just haven't seen it on stream. I haven't watched every New Shepard mission, so they could have been visible in other streams. I just didn't see it. But I don't know. It was interesting to see that. I don't know, that sort of system like come alive. I don't know. It was a cool. I watched it because it was a return to flight and it worked. It was cool. Like, I just thought that was cool that happened. Did you watch it at all, or was it too early for you?
Yeah, no, I didn't watch it. I watched the replay of it, and yeah, that was kind of cool. Coincidentally, also watched the Lex Friedman podcast this week, and Jeff Bezos was on it talking about Blue Origin and New Shepard and New Glenn. So that was so it was good. He shed some light on a lot of questions that probably a lot of people have been asking. So he seems very optimistic about his involvement fully in Blue Origin for the future and speeding it up. So that was like a big talking point. So it was interesting.
Yeah, I heard that he's said a few things about him spending more time on Blue Origin.
Yep.
I've always found that interesting when owners are interested, like are very active in their companies, but they're not the CEO. Like, it's
right.
The only thing I can talk about is the kind of compare it is owners of sports teams. Usually, you own a sports team, and then you hire a manager to manage.
Yeah, you don't run the sports team.
You don't run the sports team. And owners who do run sports teams, usually the teams aren't that good, or they're like there's always issues. Speak of the Carolina Panthers,
or they're the Cowboys.
The Cowboys as well. So, and of course now we have X/Twitter is a great example as well, where the CEO position, like, is the CEO position even the CEO position if the owner is very involved with the product of the company? So, like, there's what's this? I can't remember what his name is. It was Bob Smith, and then replaced. There's a new CEO that just started the other week ago. Actually had to go through normal orientation with other employees who started at the same time, which was I always find funny. And like, so he's the CEO, but like, is he really the CEO if Bezos is on the ground working?
Right.
Or is
so I guess if you're comparing him to, like, let's go personalities, like comparing him to Elon, I don't think it's the same leadership.
100%. Yeah.
Like, obviously I've never worked for Jeff Bezos or even know him, but just from other interviews and listening to him in this one, and just, sort of following loosely through his career, he seems like a more positive version of working with the CEO rather than I mean, a lot of the ones that you sort of alluded to, like, are pretty toxic, right? Like, obviously the Carolina Panthers, the Cowboys have had their fair share of toxicity with Jerry Jones, and obviously the Twitter X thing is just like a whole other dimension. But he seems like he understands that the CEO is there for a reason, and I think he's there to help facilitate other aspects of or help make decisions. Really, that's all it is. It just comes down to he's helping make decisions in critical moments. So
I could totally see it being more like I'm a big YouTube watcher, and so there's a company called Linus Tech Tips, Linus Media Group's like the company, and they just recently did the same thing where the guy who founded the site, who founded the YouTube channel, like, is no longer the CEO, and so like it's more like a vision, like making sure like you're moving forward in the right. That makes a lot of sense. Where like Bezos has his vision for the company. That's why he founded the site. That's why everything, and so he's just there to make sure the vision's happening properly. And if that's what's happening, that makes a lot of sense. It's just kind of always weird where like the owner is very involved and you still have a CEO. It's kind of like, okay, so like,
it doesn't feel like he's there to babysit though.
Is he the normal? Is he the normal CEO where they're in charge of the vision and the process, like the direction, like Tim Cook, Tim Cook. And like Tim Cook is in charge on Apple. And I would love the name.
He's the visionary, the operator.
I would love the name the CEOs of Microsoft and Google. I always forget what their names are, but same idea. Like, they are in charge of that company, and they choose where the company goes, versus like X Blue Origin, where they're more like a really glorified COO maybe, and like they handle
Yeah,
some of the more business side of things. Because Bezos
Right,
looks like
right.
he's really enjoying his life as a new bachelor with his and living life out
Yeah.
there on his yacht. Like he seems to like
cranking out workouts.
he's left that grind life in the past, and he's just gonna like have
Yeah.
fun now. So which is, hey, good for him. Hey, he's worked hard enough for it. So
Yeah, he said his day consists of reviewing documents and meetings. So like, whatever that means. But he was
I
saying
review a lot of documents and have meetings.
I mean, I would say like, kudos to him. He said he claims he's reading like a lot of the technical specs of
Yeah.
of the rocketry, whatever you want to call that, and the whole process of manufacturing. So he said it's not the fun part, but it's definitely part of the job that you got to do. So, but yeah, I mean, like I said, he's never come across as like a toxic CEO.
I've heard things from boss. Yeah, there's some reports that he's been pushing the company hard, but that's every owner. Like when they're behind, like Blue Origin has kind of been behind lately. You kind of have to put on your management pants and push.
Right. Well, you don't get to his level of success and like frontiering in his endeavors without being at least a little pushy. You got like that's part of the thing. You got to be able to push through, and when everybody says no, you're like no way. We're going. So. Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, Blue Origin.
Anyway, yeah, it's a good interview. You should check it out.
Yeah, I gotta finish it next. But back to New Shepard. This was an uncrewed, of course, flight. They are looking to do a crewed flight after they've finished up the data analysis from this flight. Obviously, this is the first flight with changes, so they want to make sure that's all fine and dandy. And we don't know who's going to fly. Obviously, it's Blue Origin. They're not going to tell us. Mm-hmm. Like this, the list is private. But Lauren Sanchez, who is Jeff Bezos' girlfriend, who is also a she's a TV host and a helicopter pilot, like very accomplished helicopter pilot. She is looking to do her the own like all female mission on New Shepard, nice. To get more females into pilots and STEM roles. So good for that. That was announced in an interview with the Wall Street Journal in January, and it said it should happen before the beginning of 2024. Who knows if that timeline is actually held, but that could be the next flight. It could be Lauren Sanchez with a group of females going up, which I think would be the first all-female space flight. I'm pretty sure. I haven't gone through every space flight, but I'm 99% sure this would be the first all-female space flight. So that's exciting.
That is.
It's also exciting. Baguette
Good
One.
segue.
I saw this come through one of my newsletters the other day, and I was like, "This can't be real. This can't be real." Yes, it is. So, it's very. I don't know much about it. All I know is that the company's called. Let's see, Hyperspace. I think it's called. Yeah, Hyperspace. They're all supporting. It's a joint venture between them. I think they're the lead, and then there's like a few other like European companies. I believe Hyperspace is French, and there's some other French companies, but there's an Italian defense firm as well in there. Can
we just skip to the real question? Does it actually look like a baguette?
I mean, a baguette looks like a rocket, does it not? I mean, it's cylindrical and long. It could be a rocket.
Yeah, okay, fair. But you literally could say a cucumber's a rocket, but okay.
Hey, Cucumber 1. Cucumber 5. Cucumber 9. All right. So the French company, they're looking for some funding from, it looks like, the French government. They wanted to get about 21 million euros to help kick off the funding of this rocket. Over there in Europe, the launch scene has always been kind of, I don't want to say volatile, but also like inconsistent.
Messy.
Yeah, that's a good one. Very messy. We have like pretty much like if it's not launching and sanctioned by the ESA, like it's not going to work.
Right.
But that's been changing with a couple companies, and this is one of them. But it's a French company, and I just love that they called it Baguette One. It's like, of course you did. It's French. You have to call it baguette.
Yeah.
So it's.
They could have called it a cigarette. They could have called it a cigarette, but
could have been a cigarette, snail one. I don't know. It's it launches. It's a small sat launcher, so it'll be closer. It would be close to like what the Electron could do. It's 250 kilograms of orbit. And it's this is coming from a French article, so they're a little biased towards their accomplishments. So it's going to be using recycled polyethylene plastic, recycled plastic. I'm not gonna pronounce that word. What the actual scientific term is, but it's that element that's in plastic, like it's combustible and it's not. It's been used before. I believe Viaspace, who is located in Cocoa Beach. I actually met some of their engineers like many years ago, back when they were by a different name. It was like 4 people in a warehouse that was like just down the road from SpaceX. It's one of the SpaceX's facilities, and it's just like it's just plastic. Like here, he literally brought in the rocket motor. Like this is the rocket motor. It's a live rocket motor. Like you just can't.
That's so crazy.
But it's a hybrid motor, so you have to blow a gas through it to make it actually like work. So like the actual rocket motor itself is very safe. It's just plastic. So he's like, here you go. He just handed it to me.
So
I'm like,
crazy. That's so crazy.
Okay. There was a different company, another Viaspace. Same people. I actually went to their website and looked up, and the engineer who I met still on the page. So that's cool.
Nice.
And though they're using very much similar technology.
I do like how they spelled hyper. It looks familiar.
I thought I recognized how that's spelled.
except theirs means. I mean, they have a reason for it. It's hybrid rocket, so it's hyper. Anyway.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. So yeah, they're hopefully getting into some money to start that fund date. I just wanted to talk about Baguette One. That's all.
Yeah, that's cool.
That's all the reason why I brought it up on the show notes. That's just awesome. Go French.
So cheesy.
Go
so
France.
Cheesy.
All right. So we'll take a quick break, and then we're going to go over some of our favorite topics. Finance. Trust me, it'll actually be fun. Okay, I promise. All right,
let's go grab a baguette.
All right, are ready for our part 2 of our 2023 in review session. Last week was a very rough breakdown of like top items from the year. I think we're going to try to do an actual formal, like official 2023 like review next week with our favorite missions and whatnot. But this week we wanted to go over some of the more business side things that's been that's happened this year. I don't know if you knew this. Remember OneWeb? You know they merged with Eutelsat?
Yep. Hey, just hold on. Oh. Just a disclaimer, we are not your financial advisor. All right, go ahead.
You scared me. No financial advice, no legal advice, no professional advice, no personal advice. What else can we not do? I don't know. There we go. So Eutelsat and OneWeb merged earlier this year. I kind of forgot about that until like I wrote an article about them like a month ago, and I'm like, who is this Eutelsat OneWeb? Like I've never heard of this company before. Like I know OneWeb, but like I know Eutelsat, but what's Eutelsat OneWeb? Mm-hmm. Yeah, they merged earlier this year.
And
they merged. Yeah, so there's two satellite providers that are doing pretty similar things, but like different use cases. OneWeb's in low Earth orbit or medium Earth orbit, and then Eutelsat's I think they're up in geostationary orbit. So they merged. L3Harris and Aerojet Rocketdyne merged. That was actually a really big one that
that was.
Everyone knows what Aerojet Rocketdyne is. Like everyone like if you know what the F1 engine is, like Rocketdyne. They're a really big manufacturer of engines, and they've built pretty much every major engine, I think, since and before space, before the boom of commercial space flights. Mm-hmm. They were pretty much, them and Pratt & Whitney were pretty much the only two rocket, you had Aerojet and Rocketdyne before they merged. Whatever. Actually, I used to work with L3Harris a lot when I was a software engineer. They had a commercial aviation department. And I believe they actually sold that this year, which kind of sucks. They sold that division off. So I guess all my friends there are at a different company now. But yeah, L3 Harris. A lot of people know who they are. They're actually a pretty big defense contractor. So they merged.
They're right down the road.
Yeah, down the, yeah, I know. Like they're just down. Yeah, they're down the road over there in on the coast of Florida. And so they bought Aerojet Rocketdyne. They didn't really merge, but they bought Aerojet Rocketdyne. And so now Aerojet Rocketdyne is, I love it. L3 Harris loves, it's L3 Harris company. They just love it. They really do like making sure people know an L3 Harris company. There's another company, I can't remember, that does the same thing. They're very big on letting people know that they own that company. All right. So those two companies, had some two acquisitions, which was good. SpaceX had an acquisition this year as well. Their first time like in years. They've acquired, to my knowledge, two companies. Swarm, which eventually turned into Starlink, or at least some technology went into Starlink, and then this parachute company contractor this year they acquired. So that it was a weird year for acquisitions. It kind of popped off. What didn't pop off was SpaceX.
Well, I was gonna say before you get into that, it just seems like this whole year and the rest of this list that you're going to go through in just a second is we're in a year of consolidation. Like there was, it's that there's so many, and then all of a sudden, survival of the fittest, who, like war of attrition, who's going to survive, who needs to merge with who. So this is like a typical cycle of like any vertical. And so it's just interesting that we're here now.
There are a few partnerships right now that I could totally see moving into like formal acquisitions. Like,
yep.
I don't know, Firefly. I don't know. Firefly and Northrop Grumman are very close and are very intertwined with contracts right now for the medium launch vehicle. I could totally see an acquisition there. Maybe Northrop Grumman buying Firefly. What's the other one? It's not Relativity. It's ABL, and I think it's also Northrop Grumman actually, or maybe that's a different. Maybe it's Lockheed Martin. I think Lockheed Martin and ABL are very close with partnerships and contracts, and that could be an acquisition. I could totally see this happening down the road of companies being acquired by other one else. So, anyways, but SpaceX, special purpose acquisition companies, we've talked about them before. In the terms of Astra and whatnot, they are all pretty much everyone but what was it? I think it was Rocket Lab and two others pretty much. I can't play the name of them. Planet and someone else. Everyone else though who went public through SPACs are all down year to date. So that's the site that I looked up that stat on. They did not even include Astra, which was funny. So yeah, I've been waiting on more Astra news and that hasn't come up, but we'll talk about that later. But yeah, almost every space SPAC's down year to date. I think a lot of them were not. Some of them were fine. I think Rocket Lab, Planet, whatnot are all great companies, but some companies probably should not have gone public. But like Intuitive Machines is a public company. I don't know if you knew that.
Never heard of it.
Yeah,
never heard of it.
Intuitive Machine. Oh, well, they're launching their lunar lander next month.
Oh, duh.
Yeah, not Astrobotic. There's Astrobotic, which is launching on Vulcan. Intuitive Machines is launching on SpaceX next month. So, I didn't even know they were a public company, but they are down on the bottom side for year to date earnings. So, that's not good. And most of them are also running out of cash. Like a lot of a lot of companies are just like their term sheets by the end of the year are like they have like maybe a year left or less than a year left of runway without the need of using any debt or credit lines of credit or getting more funding. So yeah, it's next year. I think this year was crazy with the two companies we'll talk about next, but next year might be another one for a few more companies, which would be interesting, or at least we'll see some funding rounds. All right, next up, Virgin Orbit bankrupt. That was beginning of the year. That one was... Yeah,
that one always gets... Between that and Virgin Galactic, like, it always... I get so confused.
Yeah, speaking of Virgin Galactic, they shocked everyone with having, like, $1 billion on cash. I don't know, they shocked everyone. They shocked me.
Yeah.
They had over $1 billion in cash. Which... this is the list. I just saw... I'm looking into my light, so everything's a little, like... on that screen, hard to see. Yeah, so yeah, Virgin Galactic came up with like $1 billion in cash. Virgin Orbit, on the other hand, which are sister companies pretty much, ran out of cash.
Right.
Redwire, Terran Orbital, Intuitive Machines, don't have much time left on their cash before they have to go into credit, lines of credit, debt, or new funding. The company that, so Virgin Orbit went out, of course, this year, and actually we just saw the first photos of I don't know they have a different name for it now, but it was called Cosmic Girl, which is their 747. That got sold off to Stratolaunch. And so that we just saw it like a few weeks ago. We saw it in its new livery, repainted, and they removed the arm that was over the wing, which is interesting. I thought that was a big reason why they wanted it, was because it had that already like in place, and you just would strap their Talon like hypersonic test bed onto it. But maybe it's not. Maybe it's too close to the engine, so maybe it has to be strapped onto the bottom of it instead of the side. But yeah, that just came out. So yeah, and Rocket Lab took over a lot of its facilities out there in not Palm Beach, I don't know, LA area. So I don't know. There's so many different cities out there in LA area. Like I don't know. I know it's Palm Beach, or there's Palm Bay, and then I don't know.
No, Palm Bay's here, buddy. Palm Bay's here. You're thinking of Palm Springs.
Something like that. Anyways, yeah. So Virgin Orbit's gone. Next, another company that we're seeing, we don't know what's going on, is Astra. Astra, of course, ran out of cash. They defaulted on one of their loans, and they have yet to launch their new launch system this year, and it doesn't look like they're going to be able to probably hit that early 2024 deadline they wanted to for showing it. This one is like a toss up at this point. When someone's stock gets so low, well, now it's actually back up. I think it's still up above $1 because of the pending offer to take it private. But when like someone is at this stage with no cash, like it could go either way very quickly. So
right.
Yeah. I don't know. Do you think are you still on the boat that it's going to get acquired?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. 100%. Yeah. I mean, before you got to the SPAC part, like you were talking about all these mergers. There's just no way that they're just going to let that thing just fizzle out. Yeah. I think the Virgin Orbit one's a little bit different because I feel like there was probably some redundancy between them and Galactic at some point.
Well, one was during commercial launches, one was during tourism. The issue with Virgin Orbit was it's just like, and honestly, Rocket Lab's in a similar boat where the small sat launch market is just like the margins are so small. And if you're not you are not launching on a very regular cadence with a very cost-effective a rocket, like you're not making money. And Virgin Orbit was not able to actually to do what they even said they wanted to do, which was be rapid responsive launching, which means they could launch anywhere in the world, use any runway. They weren't able to do it. So that's kind of what I think the reason why they failed. Astra, I think, is a product probably of their own failure. I think they grew a little too big.
Sure.
And if they want to become if they want to be a launch provider, they needed to be a launch provider and not a, space systems developer.
Yep.
I don't think Rocket Lab would be interested in acquiring them. I think they've ran through their SPAC money, I think, for development and in acquisitions. I don't think they'd be interested, but it would be an interesting play if they did. Took their engineers, put them in the neutron and electron development or electron production and neutron development, and just absorb their engine production. I don't know, like it would be interesting, but I don't think they would actually be into it. Speaking of Rocket Lab, they averaged $34 million a quarter in burn, which is kind of impressive because that's
not that much.
No, yeah, and they have a couple hundred. They have like $300 or $400 million, I think, dollars in cash on hand by the end of the year. I think. So it's is a couple years, and they're going to be launching rockets. Like they're making
10 quarters of.
Yeah, something like that. Like they're profitable. Like they're not profitable. They're making money.
Right.
And that's all while developing Neutron, which I thought was very impressive for them to not have a skyrocketing burn rate and also be able to develop a new rocket while also expanding your company to producing solar panels, engines,
it's pretty efficient.
Satellite buses, it was pretty crazy. They even recognized that. Or it was crazy. I just recognized that. It was interesting. So, all right. Final little tidbit to go over. SpaceX valued at $180 billion.
So SpaceX could just buy the list we just went through.
I don't know how much cash they have on hand, but yeah, I mean, they probably could buy up. They probably could buy up Astra and just to shut it down and not even worry about it.
Yeah.
I think they're only asking like $30 million.
To use the name.
Yeah.
Wow.
Why would they use the name? Yeah. So SpaceX, that was I think it's still a pending stock deal that they're. It's not like a series of rounding of funding. It's just, negotiating into private sales of stock.
Right.
And it looks like the price came out to be roughly $180 billion, which is, I mean, that's up there.
It's insane.
I mean, we talked about this, I think, the other last week or something like that, but it's impressive. And the company's been spending billions every year on Starship development. Like, talk about runaway development costs. Like, it's kind of like SpaceX is like kind of like Apple, where like you don't want to know how much money they're spending on development because it's just ungodly amounts of money.
It just doesn't make sense. The comprehension doesn't work in that direction.
It just like when you look at like how good it is for Rocket Lab to spend $34 million a quarter, and then you look at SpaceX and they spent like I think they spent $1 billion last year, and then Elon said they're going to spend $2 billion this year. Just on Starship.
Yeah, taking big swings, man.
And Rocket Lab spent $34 million. What was it? That would be it was average 34, so like $120-ish million for their whole operation.
Right. Yeah,
that was their whole operation.
Nothing,
yeah. And they spent billions on Starship. So
yeah.
I don't even know. I feel like SpaceX valuation is just going to probably continue to soar. Like, it's kind of crazy for that to be just where it is already. But I don't see why it wouldn't.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely been I've heard, and obviously not from anybody really important, but just word on the street. Eventually, like moving Starlink into its own company is a possibility. Yeah. Because that thing's going to have its own value at some point, and it'll only make sense to sort of split those two up. So,
yeah, I mean, having an IPO of Starlink would be massive, and it could possibly happen within the first year. Like it just makes sense to throw that out. It's already its own LLC. Like, I think within the FCC information, you'll see like it's not going to space exploration technology, whatever it's called. It's going to Starlink Services LLC. So it's already set up as its own company within SpaceX. But
right.
An IPO of that would just it just makes sense at this point, especially if they're cash break flow cash positive.
Yep.
Cash break flow positive, something like that. They're something like that.
And on that note,
that stuttering, I don't know what I'm talking about. Yeah, I don't know. It's been a really interesting year for kind of the finances of this of space. Like, it's not really it's definitely like we've seen it grow from we don't really know what it is. We're just gonna start throwing money at it, kind of like tech. We're like we know what it.
Yep.
We just want to throw money at it, and VCs are still funding it pretty well. Not as openly, I think, as was before, but they've changed. Like, there's less funding of space launch, and now the funding is moving towards like space systems and space products that are produced. So the industry has really matured, and it's really like kind of like segmented itself out from like the launch is here, the products are here. Like, they're no longer just kind of thrown together as like a mash of just like, oh yeah, let's invest in space, and we don't really know what we're investing in, but we'll give you money. Oh, new social media, yeah, sure, here's money. Not like that what it was before. But next year would be, I don't know, who knows? I mean, mergers, companies dropping out, new competitors to SpaceX. I mean, that next year, I think the business side of things is going to be very interesting with new capabilities. So,
yep. Agreed.
Anything else? Anything else from 2023 with the business side you can think of?
No, man, I think it's just, yeah, like I was just saying earlier, this is definitely just a consolidation year. I think, you'll maybe 24, maybe another, the tail end of consolidating. And then you're, 25, that quarter century mark, it's probably going to explode.
Yeah. Well, no pun intended. But yeah, there's a lot of things happening. And I think there's a lot of also potential growth areas, especially in the space services market. One that might come to more regular consumers. Like, I don't know why I would want to see satellite images, but hey, why not, right? All right. So we're going to talk about a poll next, and we'll see you guys all. All right, Jared. Name 5 science missions from this year. Don't look at the poll.
Yep.
I actually technically 3 of the missions are kind of from different years. They didn't launch this year. So
yeah, I was like, wait a minute.
So I don't even know. I had to go through and like actually look through. I know there's been several missions I've found that have been really awesome. But like launching this year, the only one I can think of off the top of my head was Lucy, which was an ESA mission.
Oh yeah.
To some of the satellite, the Trojan asteroids around Jupiter. So that launched this year. This week's poll is 2023 Science Mission of the Year. So your decisions.
Was DART this year? Was DART?
DART did not launch this year. DART took place this year. Yes, you're right. DART.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man, I should have put DART on there.
Boom.
You dang it.
That was everybody was watching to wait for the explosion.
I knew. Yeah, that was the one where I went to the gym before it took place, and like every single site was talking about DART, which was crazy. Yeah, I knew I was gonna miss a really big one on this poll. So on the poll we have this year, we for this week we have. I guess if I forgot about it, I guess it wasn't that big of a mission. It was a very big mission.
It was like
don't yell at me.
Like
NASA.
every news channel, news channel was covering it.
I'm the problem, not you. So this year we have
the fact that it actually did happen this year, and you have ones on here that did not happen this year.
Well, okay, so we've had some discoveries by these missions from this year. So here's what we put in. Perseverance rover had some big discoveries this year with different items. It also began caching its samples this year. OSIRIS-REx had its samples returned this year and moved on to the OSIRIS-APEX mission, going to a different asteroid. Go check that out now. James Webb Space Telescope, we're going to be talking for the next probably 5 years because it just blows us away every few.
Sending back amazing images.
Oh, yeah. Did you see the one of Uranus this week? Freaking phenomenal. Yeah, loved it. Lucy, which actually launched this year. ESA going out to the Trojan asteroids. It was also I'm trying to think, was this the second to last or the final Ariane 5 rocket? I think it was either the second to last or the last Ariane 5 rocket to launch. So that's a little sad, but hey, it got to do its thing. And then Ingenuity helicopter for the sole reason that little thing's still going. Like that's been my vote, only because I am just blown away that it still exists and keeps flying.
Yeah.
Yeah, what was your so who do you vote for?
I voted for Webb. It's just hands down every time. It's just amazing.
You and 70% of the other people who voted on
I know.
I've decided to go with Webb.
Well, I would have voted for DART if DART was on there.
Okay.
But it wasn't on there.
Sure. But DART Webb is just I don't know, it's going to be the mission of the year for the next 5 years. I feel like it's going. Ever since it released its first images, and launched, it was just holy cow! It's back when the Hubble, first started.
That's how Hubble was.
Everyone was just glued to seeing new photos of this mission.
Right.
So, And Webb's going to get some really awesome photos. So always cool to see that. But ingenuity for me was my vote because it's just a little thing that could. Do you know what the original estimate was for how many flights it would be before it would break?
I do not.
5.
Dang.
It's on, I think I flew number 68.
Wow.
Recently?
Yeah, that's insane.
Yeah, we're getting ready to fly 68.
It's a good piece of engineering.
Yeah, so it's the last 1 month. 5 missions.
Wow.
And it's been on for what now? 2 years now? Or a year and a half?
Yeah.
Crazy. It just blows my mind. I have a list. I need to publish this list finally. I submitted a list of all JPL missions, or at least all Mars JPL missions, how long they were supposed to last, and then how long
they actually
lasted, and like a percentage of their lifetime, like what was their actual, and Ingenuity's gonna murder that rate. Like it's, I think right now, I think that the biggest like rate was like one of the Spirit Opportunity rovers. I think it was Opportunity was the one that lasted the longest, but I feel like it's going to be Ingenuity when I redo that math. Our SpaceX huge samples of asteroids returned, like a massive amount of samples returned from an asteroid. Lucy's going to be really cool, though Lucy it launched this year. It didn't do anything this year. So
Right.
That's why I didn't put what was the one that just launched? Psyche, who launched on Falcon Heavy. Like all we got from Psyche so far this year was that the teams did a really good job at estimating what the magnetic field of the spacecraft would be. That's pretty much it.
Right.
Like it had a chance. It just launched. It's now just turning things on. So, anyways, yeah. So and Perseverance is always doing cool things, but yeah, Webb's it. I mean, the photos from Webb's
Webb
just
wins.
so freaking
Webb
cool.
wins.
I think the next week's poll is going to be Rocket of the Year, which I'm interested to see. I have a long list of rockets on that one, so I'm interested to see what people vote on. It's going to be down to 2, for sure, and I think we know which 2 they are. We'll wait till next week to talk about it, but
yeah,
it's going to be interesting to see what people vote for next week. So for that poll, but yeah, go to spaceexplorer.com. You can vote on our poll. It's open all week. So if you're listening to this a few days from now, as long as it's not a new week, as long as it's not after Christmas. If you are still shopping for Christmas gifts, you can vote on this poll. If you have already received Christmas gifts, you can no longer vote on this poll.
Do not vote.
So, yeah, that's our last episode before Christmas. So, everyone who celebrates, Merry Christmas. Everyone who doesn't, Happy Holidays. Yeah, and we'll see you guys all. I go to the next week. You can listen to us all on the normal podcast producers. You can find us at spaceexplorer.com. You can follow Jared. His socials are down below. You can join our Discord, please. And you can also, please, like and subscribe if you find us on YouTube. Yes. I'm posting shorts now, so there's more than just
leave us a comment.
So yeah, if you see one of our shorts, just view it. It's like a minute. Just let
it roll.
It's a minute. Just watch it. And we'll check out more of those going forward. And we'll thank you guys all for listening. And see you guys all next week.